Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into David Pogue's new book, Apple, the First 50 Years. We're going to unpack its core ideas to help you figure out if it's your next big read. So, the book starts out by basically blowing up the most famous origin story in all of tech. We all have that picture in our heads, right? We think we know exactly where the Apple story began, but Pogue's research points to a detail that kind of changes the whole narrative.
That's right. The legendary garage, it was definitely part of the story, don't get me wrong. It's where they did assembly and testing. But the book makes it super clear that the real engineering, the actual creative spark for the Apple I computer, happened on Steve Wozniak's desk, at his day job at Hewlett-Packard.
This quote from a longtime VP, Myra Haggerty, really hits the nail on the head. It's the core thesis of the entire book. Think about it. Apple has had 5 different CEOs, different headquarters, even different logos. But the argument here is that a consistent set of principles, this kind of corporate DNA, has been guiding the company for half a century. So what exactly is this DNA? Well, the book breaks it down into 3 big foundational ideas that really explain how Apple ticks. Let's walk through them. All right, the first core principle of Apple's DNA. You might think it's a piece of tech or design philosophy, right? Nope. It's a partnership.
The book makes a really compelling case that Apple wasn't the creation of some lone genius. It was born from this perfect, almost symbiotic partnership between 2 incredibly different people.
On one side, you had Steve Wozniak, the architect. This guy was a shy engineering wizard who could design these unbelievably elegant circuits, really just for the pure joy of solving the puzzle. And then on the other side, you had Steve Jobs, the showman. He was the relentless visionary who could look at that technical genius and figure out how to turn it into a product that would change the world. And this one story just illustrates their dynamic perfectly. Wozniak built this blue box that let you make free long-distance calls. For him, it was basically a prank, a way to show off his skills. But Jobs, he saw it and immediately thought, this is a product. They ended up selling about 100 of them in college dorms, and right there, you see the pattern for their entire future together. Okay. Let's move on to the second pillar of Apple's DNA. You can see how this builds on that initial partnership. This is the philosophy that really turned their products into an absolute empire. And that brings us to Apple's core strategy for making things. It's an obsession that has defined them from day one. The book uses this great analogy to explain it: the master chef philosophy. So, making the whole widget, what does that even mean? It's about controlling the entire process. Just think of a master chef who doesn't just cook the food. No, they control every single ingredient, from growing the vegetables themselves to how it's finally plated. That way, they know every single part works together perfectly. For Apple, this means they design their own custom chips, they engineer the hardware, they write the operating system, they develop the key apps, and they even control the stores where you buy the thing. It's a level of integration that their competitors, who are all working with different partners, just can't touch. And the result of this philosophy? Well, at its peak, Apple reached a market valuation of $4 trillion. That number is just staggering, especially for a company that during its darkest days, literally nobody wanted to buy at any price. Okay, so here's the crucial point. This insane level of control allows Apple to have a very specific and honestly a pretty counterintuitive strategy when it comes to the market. The book highlights this surprising pattern that just flies in the face of what most of us think about tech. Apple is rarely, and I mean rarely, the first one to enter a new market. They play the long game like a chess master. They watch other companies pioneer new categories. They see what works, and, more importantly, they see what doesn't. And then, once they've learned from everyone else's mistakes, they enter with a product that doesn't just improve things, it totally redefines the category by focusing on simplicity and elegance. A perfect example of this is the MP3 player. The market was already full of devices like the Diamond Rio, but as the book points out, they were all kind of ugly and complicated to use. Apple just waited. They obsessed over making it simple with that scroll wheel, and then they launched the iPod. And, well, the rest is history. And this wasn't some one-time trick. The book shows how Apple used this exact same playbook for the iPhone, for the iPad, and for the Apple Watch. Each time they entered a market that already existed and just completely took it over. And the end result of this whole strategy? An ecosystem with over 2.2 times billion active devices around the world. I mean, think about that. That's a user base larger than the entire population of China or India, all connected through this one carefully built strategy. So, when you put it all together, these three big takeaways from the book, the symbiotic partnership, the philosophy of total control, and the strategy of perfecting, not pioneering, they create the fundamental operating system that has powered Apple's success for 50 years. So, this explainer gives you the book's core thesis, but the author closes by asking the most important question of all. As the world shifts away from just hardware breakthroughs and more towards AI and services, can this legendary formula, this corporate DNA, guide the next 50 years? That's the big question the book leaves you to ponder.